these even cubes, even strips. And we see over here, we're gonna make like tipped. One side is actually tipped. So let's go ahead do that. So the way you can actually go ahead and do that, now that I'm lazy, I'll drop in something called a for each, and this will actually just reiterate through everything that I'm doing. Now, for one, it ain't just gonna walk off the top because I actually need to tell you what I need to do. So for each primitive. Now, when you think about that, for each primitive, so that means it's gonna go through every single primitive. So that's the job that it does. So in our case, we got this little orange guy over here who cannot be seen, but I'm gonna go ahead and darken this scene. So he's right here. So now we're gonna be working on this guy, but whatever we do for this guy is gonna be worked on every other single person that's actually available. Oh, that's actually coming in through the trail sub over here. Now we can, what we're gonna go ahead and do, well, you could actually use point numbers, the number of points over here, being that you have however many points that you have in every single primitive. You can create a 0 to 1 attribute on this one using the point numbers, where you get the total number of points divided by the point number. But in our case, we're gonna go ahead and use it UV texture in this particular time, and the texture type will be, you can try average spline or something like that. I'll just use arc length spline, and actually I'm gonna go ahead to my spreadsheet, and for one, I got the UV data like I would like, but for some reason everything is just 0. Now reason for that is that this texture to arc length spline actually means it needs to be a curve, whatever. So everything is kind of in the UV data parametric kind of stuff they call it. So we got this guy called the convert. So we can convert. Now the convert pretty much converts anything. So we can convert from type to type. So in our case, we want to convert from any type to a NURBS curve. And if you actually look, this just streams in all our data like we would like. So pretty much everything is from 0 to 1. So, and if you actually look, it's a vector, so it's a 0 1 2, so it's a 3 float vector, and everything falls in on the very fast block over here, the very fast index. So don't forget that, because we're going to be creating an attribute right after this. So what we're going to go ahead and do is actually create an attribute. So attribute create, and the attribute that we want to create is called width, and it's exactly like that, and you cannot actually type anything else than that. So it actually has to be exactly width, just like so. Why is that? Now let me go ahead and pull up my help, and this pops out the attribute create help, but I'm gonna go ahead and type in width, and even though I really can't tell, it should be under mantra. I wish I did find it earlier. Mantra. There you go. Under rendering attributes, you can so mantra attributes. Mantra has some attributes that are already predefined, so to speak. So like UV, orient, and all that kind of good stuff. And there's width, which is used to determine the width of a curve or point primitive. So we're dealing with curves right now, right? So we're dealing with a curve. So width is an attribute which is actually predefined for mantra, which is the renderer that we're actually using to render this stuff. So having that said and done, width is actually width just like that, so you cannot put any value. So if I leave it at 0, it'll just render nothing, and if I put it at a value of 0.5 and actually render this, you get these big blobs. And if I actually put it 0.01, you get this small lines. Now you can actually see that mantra is actually rendering this whole thing off the top by whatever numbers you put up. So being that it's all procedural, we're gonna go ahead and create an attribute, and we're gonna extract the data from the UV over here, so we're gonna use a point expression in our case. So point from the texture, right? So texture, and we're gonna close that with the two little thingies. And it actually asks for a point float number, so we're gonna use a $pt. So that's for every single point. $pt just means every single point. Then the string attribute in our case is UV, all in small letters, exactly the same way it is on the texture node over there. And the float index is 0. If you actually remember me talking about the prefloat attribute. Now, if you actually look at this, it's in small letters, so UV, all in small letters. That's the same way you should type it in right here. So now, if you actually go ahead and look at this, it should scale down everything based on the UVs. So okay, everything is right. Now you can tell the difference from this one, this render. You can tell that this one, everything just gets scaled down, of which I might want to actually just multiply this by a smaller number, so 0.25 in our case. Probably work out better. So I'm gonna go ahead render. And now you can actually see, you're actually outputting the data exactly, as we would like. So everything is actually scaling down to a tipped edge, so to speak. So fair and dandy, working good, but we have a problem. I'm gonna be rendering this eventually, I think, even though I never render stuff. But if I look at the alpha, everything is just solid, which is kind of cool but not really nice, being that we want to do some funky cool stuff with this. So for one, what we're gonna go ahead and do is actually implement the alpha on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take this and copy paste it. I'm lazy like that. And for all I'm gonna do is actually rename this to alpha. Now it's exactly the same thing as before. None of these names are actually made up. All these names are actually predefined in Houdini. So CA. So for my help, back in my help, I'm gonna go ahead and search for point sop, right? And point surface node over here, and the local attributes or local variables, we got a variable called CA, which is the point alpha value. So actually, if you actually drop in a point sop, which is acclaimed to be one of the most powerful sops in Houdini, I would say, they say. But there you go, alpha, and the local variable name is alpha. I mean CA, $CA. So just the same thing we put out over here. So now actually, if I go ahead and render this, well, it does the thing as I would like to, as far as for the alpha, but something's not right. So I had a value added to this, so I'm gonna go ahead and reduce that to make it a 0 to 1 range, and I'm gonna go ahead and re-render this, and pretty much this should be it as far as for creating the effect. So everything just fades out to a 0 value, and the alpha is exactly as you would like, so it just fades out to black. So that's pretty cool. If you want to tighten it, you know what to do now. So if I go back up, pretty much the effect is done. When you think about it, ain't nothing else to do. Everything is animating. Well, for me, my part ain't nothing to do. Screw rotating all this stuff, and you're just gonna, it's just simple ball going round and round. But actually, yeah, here's one thing I forgot. Okay, here's the fun part about Houdini. So like, and I'm gonna just put this under flat wire shaded hidden line ghost, because the constant shader is actually kind of pain to see. Now I'm dropping a curve, right, because we're dealing in NURBS, and what I'm gonna go ahead and do is actually play with this a little bit. So I'm actually, yep, play in the first V, and actually, if you can actually look at this, being that it's all procedural, that means my mountain also is halfway through. It's not fully done. Now I can actually animate this from 0 to 1, right? So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is actually on frame 1 is animate this from right there. Then on the very last frame over here, 240, I'm gonna make it a value of 0, of which it could be the first, second V, and whatever. It depends on which one you want to use for real, because this one does the same thing only from the top down. So it just depends on what you're trying to achieve. at the end of the day. So pretty much that's the only thing that I'm animating this, but you might want to go ahead animate the mountain over here, animate the rotation over here. You know, everything just gives a different result as it is. So you might want to put, you know, keyframes on all of those. And pretty much that should be it as far as for anything. Whoa, that's even crazier thing than I thought. Um, I didn't try that out before I did this, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the rotation back to 0, so it's actually just facing up. And well, I'll just go ahead and assume that the whole thing is done as it is. So you just need to play with the settings a little bit more than I did. I didn't play with them, so um, as you can see, everything just pop up, and I'm pretty much done with the tutorial. So I mean, if anything, it's just a fun tutorial, a fun exercise, not even a tutorial. I wouldn't even consider this a tutorial or anything like that, but it's fun just playing with Houdini and creating stuff like this. Now you can actually go ahead, add some more elements and composite the whole thing in After Effects, Fusion, Nuke, whatever it is. For me, pretty much done. Let me go ahead and get my other file to play with. I never render stuff, so I'm gonna see you in the next one, definitely for sure. Um, yeah, try to put some more stuff out. I'm not into Houdini as much as I used to, but I'm trying to get back to it. See you on the next one. Out. So.